We see the group of tormented souls from 6 years ago, standing in front of the Adventurers Association building. Cry, looking nervous, suggests postponing their visit. His companions remind him that it was his idea to say they were ready for the capital. Cry tells them that they are ready, but he would only be a burden. His red-haired companion, Luke, ignores him, kicks the door open, raises his wooden sword, and boldly asks who the best swordsman is, declaring that he himself is the best in the world. Everyone around sees them as nothing more than a group of rowdy kids. Their companion, Liz, frustrated, scolds Luke for his behavior and introduces herself as the best thief in the world, adding that they've come to become treasure hunters. At the registration desk, Luke talks to a large man and proudly mentions that Cry, their leader, taught him not to rely on his weapon, which is why he only uses a wooden sword. Cry, mortified, watches as the receptionist hands them the registration form, asking them to choose a team name and emblem. Cry realizes they haven't thought about this at all. The receptionist suggests that the name should reflect their values, something meaningful. Cry glances at his friends who are all relying on him to choose the perfect name. Desperate to make a bad impression and get kicked out of the group, Cry picks a name no one would ever take seriously, Tormented Souls, and draws a skull for their emblem. His companions are stunned. They remind him that they're a group of heroes, not villains, and that the name makes them sound like outcasts. Cry, seeing an opportunity, insists that without this name he can't continue, admitting he's a bad leader and would rather support them from the sidelines. To his surprise, the group immediately changes their tune, deciding the name is perfect. Thus, the Tormented Souls are born. Back in the present, Cry and Tino meet with Greg, Ruta, and Gilbert in a bar. Greg still finds it hard to believe that Cry is the 1,000 Tricks, a level 8 hunter. Tino declares that if they truly understand the Master's greatness, they should kneel before him. Cry assures them that isn't necessary. The 1,000 Tricks is Cry's second nickname, a mark of prestige for hunters. But Gilbert remains unconvinced, refusing to believe Cry is the strongest. Tino, furious at Gilbert's disrespect, declares she doesn't want to work with someone who can't recognize her master's strength. Cry realizes she's described him perfectly. Cry asks if they're all willing to take on the mission. Gilbert refuses again, not believing Cry is worthy of leading the team. Greg demands he show some respect, leading to a heated argument. Cry steps in, agreeing that Gilbert shouldn't be part of the team. Greg accepts this decision and turns to Ruta, asking if she still wants to go to the White Wolf's den. She hesitates, saying it's not exactly what she wanted. Gilbert interrupts, angrily asking if they really intend to exclude him. Cry calmly replies that it's what he asked for, and tells Tino she can choose anyone else from the guild if she needs an additional member. Tino once again begs Cry to join them, but he refuses and starts to leave. Gilbert challenges him to a duel, proposing that if he wins, Cry will join the mission. He refuses to follow someone weaker than himself. Cry, unfazed, replies that if Gilbert wants to fight, he'll have to duel Tino, the leader of the group. Tino eagerly accepts. They move to an arena where she shows off her incredible flexibility, though Cry seems indifferent. Gilbert warns Cry that after he defeats Tino, Cry will be next. Tino, with a smirk, tells him that she's a level 4 hunter and still nothing compared to her master. She tosses aside her weapons, intending to finish him off without killing him. Greg worries that Tino, as a thief, is at a disadvantage against a swordsman. Cry agrees, but knows that Tino has grown into a skilled fighter with plenty of combat experience. The real issue, however, is Gilbert's powerful Kriba sword. Gilbert disarms himself, vowing not to use his sword against an unarmed woman. Cry knows this is a mistake. Tino prepares to end things quickly so she can go get ice cream with the master afterward. Cry, caught off guard, tells her he never agreed to that. She threatens to throw a tantrum, and he reluctantly agrees to go, but only after she completes her assignment. The fight begins, and Tino charges in with blinding speed. Gilbert barely dodges, but doesn't see the kick to his face that sends him crashing into the wall. Gilbert stands and clumsily swings back, but Tino effortlessly dodges and captures his arm, twisting it painfully. She informs him she held back and orders him never to disrespect the master again, demanding that from now on, he worship Cry like a god, pray to him 3 times a day, and bring offerings to her to deliver on his behalf. In a rage, Gilbert breaks free, only for Tino to knock him out with a single blow. She thanks the master for teaching her everything she knows, though Cry knows he didn't teach her anything. The others are left in awe of her strength. Gilbert, groaning on the ground, tries to stand, thinking back to his childhood when he trained tirelessly to become the best. As he grew stronger, he convinced himself he was unbeatable. Tino urges him to use his sword if he wants to continue the fight. He refuses, and she reminds him that pride is meaningless if it gets him killed. Gilbert realizes she's right. If this had been a real fight, he'd be dead. He finally understands his own weakness. Cry asks if Gilbert left his previous group because of the gap in strength between them. Gilbert is surprised Cry knows this. Cry admits that the same thing happened in his own group, but they never abandon anyone, or rather, they don't let anyone leave. Gilbert finally begins to grasp the true power behind the 1,000 tricks. Cry approaches the sword, gripping it confidently as flames suddenly engulf him. He starts analyzing the sword's magical elements, quickly recognizing that while it's simple, it holds immense power. Gilbert watches in awe as Cry skillfully manipulates the sword's magic, enhancing it with ease, something Gilbert has never been able to do. Mana is the foundation of their world. It's abundant yet invisible to the naked eye. However, in treasure chambers, ley lines and other forces condense mana, creating anomalies that sometimes manifest as parallel worlds. It remains a phenomenon not fully understood. One of these treasure chambers is the White Wolf's Den. It once teemed with silver wolves until they were hunted to extinction, and the chamber mysteriously appeared in its place. Cry reviews the report about the den and feels a wave of relief that he didn't join the mission himself. It terrifies him. Eva questions his decision to send rookies there, but he reassures her, explaining that they're level 4 hunters on a level 3 mission. He also thanks her for the information about why Gilbert left his previous group, adding that it came as a surprise. Eva mentions she heard about the sword display Cry performed. He downplays it, saying it was simple and that even Gilbert could replicate it. Cry adds that he didn't get hurt only because of one of his many treasures, which he admits is a bit of an obsession. He stores the sword with a collection of magical rings, confessing that collecting treasures has become almost addictive. He wonders if Gilbert might be willing to sell him the sword. Eva flatly refuses to indulge his treasure-hoarding habits, reminding him that he already has enough. Cry nervously explains that each treasure is unique, granting different abilities. Eva shakes her head, reminding him that while the group doesn't lack money, he should show some restraint. Since their earnings are split equally, he makes money without lifting a finger yet still spends extravagantly. Cry suddenly remembers he hasn't recharged any of his treasures lately. Later, he heads to a cafe with a girl and a man. The girl imbues his jewelry with a spell to recharge them, while the man shares troubling news. A phantom appeared on the northern road, destroying an entire caravan and killing 3 high-level soldiers. Witnesses described it as wolf-like, leading everyone to believe it came from the White Wolf's den. Cry nervously tries to reassure himself that his friends are capable enough to handle the situation, but the couple notes that phantoms have become unusually aggressive in recent months, and the difficulty of the White Wolf's den has been upgraded. It's now classified as extremely dangerous. They mention Rudolph DeVoot, a famous level 5 hunter who recently disappeared while exploring the den. Cry realizes that this is the same group he had sent Tino's team to rescue. His face pales as he checks the mission notice. The couple asks if everything is all right. Cry, panicked, admits that he sent Tino along with a newly formed group into that very chamber. The two look at him in shock, calling it reckless and akin to sending them to their deaths. Cry quickly excuses himself, leaving the cafe in a hurry. As he walks, he tries to calm himself, convincing himself that his friends will manage. He reassures himself that Gilbert is talented and has a powerful sword. But then, a chilling thought strikes him. Did they remember to recharge the sword after the demonstration? In the forest, Tino and her group sense something is off. Tino quietly tells them that something about this mission seems suspicious. Cry doesn't do things without a reason, she reminds them. Her companions initially express doubts, but after thinking it over, they realize that Cry is a cunning individual, well known for his eccentric methods of measuring their strength and potential. They trust he wouldn't send them on a mission that was truly impossible. Meanwhile, back at headquarters, Cry is filled with regret, admitting to himself that he did, in fact, send them on an impossible mission at random. Now, he's frantically wondering what to do next. He knows that Tino is far too stubborn to admit she's in over her head and call for a retreat. At this hour, there's no way to form a support team. Realizing the situation is dire, Cry concludes that he'll have to go himself. He pulls a hidden lever behind a bookshelf, revealing a secret passage. If he can catch up to them, he can claim it was all a mistake, and then send Ark to complete the mission. Back in the forest, Tino's group finally encounters their enemy, a massive red wolf clad in armor. They ready themselves for battle. Back at headquarters, Cry quickly rummages through his collection of treasures, grabbing anything he thinks might be useful for the mission. He pauses in front of a safe, contemplating whether or not to take the treasure stored inside. As he prepares to leave, Ava catches him, eyeing the many treasures he's packed. She questions his plans, and Cry stammers out an excuse, claiming he's just going for a walk. But Ava sees through him, knowing he's worried about his companions. She notices something hanging around his neck, Citri's slime, a highly illegal item in the Empire. Cry hurriedly tries to cover it up, denying that he's carrying something so dangerous, but he knows it's a last resort, something he might need if things go terribly wrong. Stepping out onto the balcony, Eva asks if he really intends to go alone. Cry responds that he does. After all, the treasure he's bringing only works for one person. He throws on a cloak, which immediately sprouts wings, lifting him into the air. Eva watches him fly off, knowing that the treasure he's using was designed as a one-way projectile. It can't turn or stop once in flight. Cry is essentially launching himself like a human missile straight into the mission.